All right, what's going on out there, world? It's your main man, Tommy, on the spot. Welcome to today's edition of Disney 101. Thank you so much for checking us out today. I've got Steve on the other end. Steve, how are you today?
Oh, wait. Okay, now I see you. Okay, I'm
Ah,
doing
hey,
good.
especially now that you can see yourself. Otherwise,
Right.
there's my mug on the other end of this, and so, but
It makes me so that way I don't have to look at you the whole time.
there you go. So you got a little bit of something extra there, and we're good to go. So, how was your week this last week?
It's been good. It's the first week of classes, so it's been interesting to say the least.
I can imagine. Yeah, it's probably so you're back in school today, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Monday was my first day, and I am not a morning person, and it's been a rude awakening being able to sleep in for the past 2 months and having to get up at 5:30 in the morning each day.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it's been 5:30 in the morning. That's even earlier than I usually have to get up. That's insane. So, got to give you credit for that. And we won't be too late then, having to get up 5:30, and I'm assuming it's obviously a straight Monday through Friday, correct?
Yes, it is. Although Wednesday is an early day, so I mean, I know I know I don't get sympathy from everyone. On Wednesdays I get out at 1 o'clock.
Oh wow! That's tremendous. I wish I got out at 1 o'clock. That would be the whole day is right there for. I'd probably sleep until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but the whole day is right there for you.
Yeah, I mean, I love naps, so
Definitely. Well, first, before we get started here, I wanted just to give a shout out to everyone who has been joining us over on Twitter. Just letting you guys know to get us started here. If you want to follow along with the show, you can follow along at Disney 101 Pod. And, we connected with a lot of great folks over this last week. I think we're up over 280 followers, which to me is incredible. And I can't thank you guys enough for going ahead and doing that and continuing to help us kind of, grow this brand out there. And also wanted to let you guys know that if you are following along on the YouTube, earlier today I did upload a video onto this YouTube channel kind of commemorating, since tomorrow is the launch of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. I figured I'd throw up a video from last year's Mickey's Tricycle Villain Parade, I believe it's called. I already forgot the name.
That doesn't sound right.
I believe it's I'll go ahead and I'll look up the name directly onto our from our Disney 101. I got the exact thing here. It's okay. So it is the Mickey's Tricycle Gang Villain Parade in Disneyland Paris, and it's a short little video. But if you guys do want to check that out, it's kind of cool. And since bringing in the Halloween season, figured to throw that up there for everyone to check out.
So wait, are they all riding tricycles?
Yeah. So somebody's riding the tricycle. You got to check this video out. Yeah,
I do. I have to. I'm sorry that I didn't yet.
Yeah. So it's basically all of the villains are in the parade, and each one of them is in their own little pod, and a cast member is riding a tricycle around, carrying their pod in each one.
Interesting. All right, now I have to go and check it out.
You do. It's pretty. We went there last year for our anniversary. My wife had surprised me with a trip to Italy, and then the end of the trip was going to be Paris, France. And so basically our trip to Paris, France was just 2 days. Once we got down there and saw that our hotel included transportation to Disneyland Paris, we went down to Disneyland for both days while we were down there. We went to the downtown Disney, and then we did both of the parks out there. So it was awesome. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Do you already have, speaking of, because tomorrow is, the start of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, do you already have your tickets and everything all set up for that?
We don't yet. We've still been trying to figure out when we're going to go, but we're definitely going to go sometime soon because the annual pass holder discounts are usually only like the first couple of months. So it's usually only like August and September. When you get into October, and because the closer to Halloween it gets, the busier it gets, they usually don't offer as many discounts because it also gets more expensive. Just the tickets themselves get more expensive.
Because they assume there's obviously going to be more people down there for the actual
Halloween
party itself.
Instead of in August.
Gotcha. Well, I will say it is real. When I put up the video earlier and I was writing Happy Halloween from the Disney 101 guys, and it's 102 degrees out here in New York, and I was like, Halloween is far away, but we got to give Disney credit for taking advantage of, I guess, the clientele and the folks that are into it.
Well, I mean, and not everyone can come down during the month of October for Halloween. So
Right.
it helps, like it helps to spread out that you don't have to come down during a certain amount of time. If you come down sometime in the next 3 months, like you get to celebrate Halloween, which is kind of cool.
That is really cool. Yeah. I mean, especially you could do that, and then obviously one of the big things about this episode that we're going to do is a primer for all things food and wine. We're going to get into a couple of quick news topics before we get there, but Food and Wine is also kicking off. Is it next week, correct?
I think, yeah, next week.
Very, very cool. So,
well, in 2 weeks, actually. Sorry, August 30th is the start date.
August 30th. All right, well,
yeah.
We'll get people ready to go, and it'll be good. But before we get there, I just wanted to kind of tie up a couple of little loose ends, and also talk about some of the news topics of the week. It was announced this week that Guardians of the Galaxy is not bringing back James Gunn once and for all. They are not rehiring him. He did meet with Disney brass, and he will officially not be being brought back. So it looks like the James Gunn era is officially over in the Marvel universe, and it's time to move on.
And it'll be interesting now that I guess they've kind of called everyone's bluff to see whether or not all of the actors that said that they're not coming back are actually going to not come back.
Right. I mean, I personally feel like if you're an actor and you have a gig in the because of the fact that this is something that can lead to the merchandising, the rides, you can pretty much continue to earn a living off these characters and off your role as these characters for the rest of life. So it's, why give that up? I mean, James Gunn, I'm sure, was a good guy, and loyalty goes a long way. But at the end of the day, it really is. It is definitely a major calling of the bluff here by Disney.
Right. And I mean, all they really need to do is now, to start Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Spoilers for Infinity War, but all you have to do is basically just not bring anyone back. And, hey, guess what? These people stayed dead. Sorry, guys.
That's very, very true. That's actually a great point. So that is it's a shame. I know that a lot of people thought James Gunn did a great job, and I think he did. But it goes to show that you can't, no matter where you're at in life, you got to make sure you're really careful about what you put out there on social media. Don't make jokes publicly about things that are super sensitive to folks, and the stuff he said was really inappropriate.
Yeah.
Disney really had no choice in the matter, and it kind of is what it is. Speaking of kind of the Marvel universe and Disney in general, it was announced today that the D23 conference, Expo, so to speak, will actually be being held next year. I do have the dates on this. If you give me 1 second. It's going to be, I don't know, I had it a second ago. D23, they did announce, is going to be returning in Anaheim, and for some reason I can't actually, in the articles that I pulled up, there's no actual dates, but it will be held next August in Anaheim. If you give me a sec, I'll be able to pull those up, or you have probably the ability.
I do. It's the 23rd to the 25th.
There you go. So the August 23rd to 25th, and this kind of will come home, I guess, a little bit for you, Steve, because they announced that one of the major themes of the entire D23 Expo next year is the Haunted Mansion. Disneyland is going to be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the launch of the Haunted Mansion ride, which launched back in 1969. And so in order to commemorate this, they're doing a huge contest, a design contest at the D23 Expo. And it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'm almost contemplating now if I need to somehow get there, because that would be awesome, because I love it.
Oh, it would be. D23 itself is just incredible. They also announced on the article here that I do have about it that the main kind of theming of the entire conference is going to be, of the expo rather, is going to be Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars. So you're going to have all of that, and this just is obviously, from a parks point of view, this is the continuation and the build towards the big anniversary in 2021, and I'm sure they'll continue to unveil plans for that moving forward.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, D23 is basically the Comic-Con of the Disney World. So along with all that other stuff, there's always all like panels and expos and demonstrations and all sorts of good stuff, even if you don't, worry about any like the movies or anything like that. It's just a really cool place to go and celebrate anything within the Disney culture.
And if you are thinking of going, our early bird ticket releases for that do go on sale next Thursday, August 23rd. So it'll be earlier in the day before we're on the air. So I wanted to make sure I went and told you guys about that. For the early bird one day ticket, $67. 3-day ticket runs you $177. And then after November 20th, those will both jump up from there. And you can also get super VIPs for like $2,500. If you could do that, then you could probably also afford to bring both of your Living Disney 101 hosts along with you, and we'd be glad to go. So, but there's a lot of really, really cool things, and I'm sure they'll be continued to make some announcements about the expo kind of as it nears and gets a little bit closer.
Yeah, on a teacher's salary, I might have to skip the VIP experience.
VIP, yeah, I'm not even sure what that would entail, but it'd be cool to go to because it's down in Anaheim, so it'd be like you can kind of take the D23 Expo and also kind of couple it with a trip down to Disneyland.
Yeah, maybe.
Speaking of we mentioned earlier the 2021 expansion in WDW and in the Disney parks in general. As a part of that expansion, it was announced that the Disneyland Tomorrowland Speedway will be closing its doors in the beginning of 2019. But have no fear for fans of that ride and fans of that attraction. It will be reopening back up in the summer of 2019. The reason why it is closing down is for the construction of the Tron roller coaster.
Yeah, and basically what they're going to have to redo the Tomorrowland Speedway track in order to accommodate the new ride. So that's partially why they have to close it down.
Oh, gotcha. Well, Tron kind of made headway. That's actually, I believe it's the original Tron is in Disneyland. Is it Shanghai?
Yeah, Shanghai Disney. And
it's gotten a lot of unbelievable praise. I'm excited to ride that ride when it is eventually opened, and because then also I won't need to go all the way to Disneyland Shanghai to do so.
I mean, you probably still should, because they have a lot of awesome stuff, and the Asian Disney parks are so cool because the Imagineers basically just get to go run wild with any sorts of ideas, especially at Tokyo, because I believe Tokyo is the one where it's actually owned by it's owned by the government. So they just it's owned by its own separate company. It's why different cast members don't get into free at Tokyo Disneyland. They get, I used to get in for free anywhere else except for Tokyo Disneyland, because it's actually kind of owned by a separate company. I think it's either owned by a separate company or owned by the government. I'm not 100%. But either way, basically the Imagineers there just get money thrown at them to design all of the coolest rides. So all of the coolest rides are over at Tokyo.
Very cool. Yeah, and one of the things they did say about the new attractions is the new attraction will occupy an entirely new area next to Space Mountain, behind the railroad tracks. And now, as Disney prepares to welcome Tron into the park, a few modifications will be made to nearby Tomorrowland Speedway. The new attraction, the Walt Disney World Railroad will temporarily cease motion and park at Main Street Station starting in December of 2018, taking a break from its grand circle tours of Magic Kingdom Park. During this time, guests will be able to get up-close look at the railroad and take advantage of a one-of-a-kind photo opportunities, similar to what they've done at Disneyland with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was initially being constructed. So yeah, that's kind of what you said there. And that's actually from WDW News Today. Kind of sticking things out within Tomorrowland, the rumor mill has started up again that indeed Wreck-It Ralph, and they're making a Wreck-It Ralph attraction that is eventually going to be taking over for Stitch's Great Escape. Do you think this is actually going to come out?
I would love to say yes, but knowing how rumors start and where they come from and everything like that, they've been saying a bunch of different rides. I mean, they were saying that Journey to Imagination with Figment has supposed to have closed 10 times since then, and Stitch's Great Escape. There's been rumors where, when Stitch first went seasonal, they're saying, oh, Wreck-It Ralph is going to come in and everything, and it might, but there's just as equally a chance that it's not going to. So until Disney officially announces this is coming, who knows?
Well, and what they said was Disney CEO Bob Iger went on to state back in 2016 that there would not be any virtual reality attractions inside the theme parks and would keep them regulated to the void locations in both Anaheim and Orlando, which I guess is down in downtown Disney.
Yeah.
But while we don't really know what this attraction will be, assuming now not VR-based, we do know it will replace Stitch's Great Escape, which Disney has currently stated is a seasonal attraction. We're not sure what that means anymore, as the show has not reopened since January. And I mean, good riddance to Stitch's Great Escape. I don't think, won't really be missed.
I don't think it'll be missed.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Stitch. Stitch is one of my favorite characters, but it was one of my least favorite attractions. Hanson.
Yeah, I remember going on it the first time being like, oh, that's interesting. Like, he belches pizza in your ear. That's kind of cool. But then I went back on it the second time, and I was like, it's not cool. It's actually gross, and we're not getting much out of this ride, to be honest.
It's especially gross if you ever see it with the lights on. So.
You've seen Stitch's Great Escape with the lights on?
Yeah. I mean, I used to work there.
You used to be in Tomorrowland, right?
Yeah. So I've seen a lot of Stitch's Great Escape that I didn't need to see.
That's nutty. The one other thing, kind of a little bit of unfortunate news here, and it's about the current updates that they have for FastPass Plus. They announced, as I'm pulling this up here, I'm kind of going through some of my notes. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So back in April, there was an update released to the My Disney Experience app that disabled transferring of FastPass Plus entitlements between family and friends on your account. This was extremely dissatisfying for guests for multiple reasons, the biggest being a constant change of plans and unable to move FastPass Plus reservations around. Today, the actual WaltDisneyWorld.com website, and this was a couple of days ago, but it was earlier this week, DisneyWorld.com website updated to also remove this function entirely. With this removal, park guests can no longer move FastPass Plus reservations between family and friends and family members. You can only add more people or cancel entirely. You can see blah blah blah. Oh yeah, you can see below the update party function is gone, and from the actual website, leaving just the add guests in its place. Disney has stated they've implemented this as a way to prevent fraud from happening with the FastPass Plus system. What does that mean?
Basically, it means that ever since FastPass Plus first started, there have always been ways to play around with the system and work it to your benefit. When it first rolled out, way back when, annual pass holders were basically able to double dip because they had, if you were staying on property, you had your Magic Band, and then you also had a physical park ticket because you had the old FastPass system, and you still had the legacy machines, which were the actual paper FastPasses. So those annual pass holders or DVC members or whoever it was that were staying on Disney property, you got your Magic Band, which allowed you to get FastPass Plus, and then it also gave you your annual pass physical ticket. So you were allowed to get a FastPass Plus, and you were able to get a paper FastPass at the same time. They did away with that pretty quickly, but then a lot of other people said, they turned. There was this thing called in-park validation, which basically said if you don't have to have an active ticket or a valid ticket in order to get a FastPass. So what a lot of people, such as cast members, would do, because cast members have those extra main gate passes, you could just get additional FastPasses based on whatever kinds of, if you had any sort of ticket, even if you didn't have a ticket, you could just get a FastPass for someone and then not show up, or give it to someone if they needed it, or transfer it, or that kind of thing. And so ever since they turned in-park validation on, you needed to have a ticket. And if you were a main gate pass, you had to be in the park and you had to have been in the park in order to get a FastPass. Basically, what they've done now is what you used to be able to do is you can get a fast pass, and if you have a fast pass, you can just give it to someone else. So you can kind of, who, if you and a bunch of your annual pass holder friends are friends and family on My Disney Experience, you could just say, okay, maybe we'll go now. So me and my 10 friends that are fast pass, that are annual pass holders, are just going to make a bunch of fast pass reservations for everyone and not go, or we'll maybe change around or whatever. So it's kind of trying to get rid of the abuse of the system from people that have either extra tickets or extra entitlements, or basically the other ways that they've been able to cheat the system.
Yeah, actually, one of the things it also says here was there was even bigger issues with unauthorized tour guides that aren't Disney cast members giving tours of the parks and trying to undercut park rules with numerous unused tickets or transferring of FastPass Plus. So kind of what you said there. And the last line here really kind of states the sentiment here that I have about it, that it's a shame that a few kind of ruin it for the masses.
Yeah, but that's been Disney policy for a while. When they changed the old, guests with disabilities services a while ago, they went from just a general, basically paper form to an electronic form, and they changed it around basically where, the older system basically used to be, hey, if you had this certain pass, if anyone with you has any sort of disability or anything like that that's restricting them from either being able to ride rides or their ability to wait on lines or anything like that, it basically just acted as an additional fast pass where, and there were certain rules that went along with it. But then because there was that article that came out a while ago about, either really wealthy people or whatever it was, basically paying for people, like paying basically people to come with them, or paying people for this ability that, they knew that they had. So people were selling these cards on eBay and stuff. Basically people had to, Disney had to kind of step in and say, we're trying to, basically what they did in not so uncertain terms is they made it less desirable to have this pass. You really only got it if you really needed it. And they also made it a lot harder to get it. And they put on a lot of more rules with it. You said, whoever this belonged to, they have to be the one to go up to the rides and request the extra assistance and that kind of thing. So they really put a lot of restrictions on it because it basically came out that people were abusing the system.
Wow, that's insane. The fact that you could people were eBaying them is are you kidding me? That's wild. Wow. Well, that's basically all the news tidbits that I have there. Do you have anything that you wanted to add in there?
No.
All right. Yeah, and I did. Unfortunately, I had tickets to go see Christopher Robin this week, but it did not work out. So. The review of Christopher Robin hopefully will happen sometime soon, but kind of remains in abeyance right now. So, but the main reason we're here is to kind of go through all things Epcot's Food and Wine Festival, and we're kind of going to give you guys a bit of a primer here. Now, I was going to do a bit of research on this, but I actually thought it would be better for me to kind of act as someone who's, I've never been to the Food and Wine Festival. It's something that I've always wanted to do, and so I figured it would be better to let kind of Steve go through the Food and Wine Festival, and I'll kind of ask questions and kind of piggyback on things as we go through.
Sounds good. So the first thing that you need to know about Food and Wine Festival is that it's long. It runs from August 30th to November 12th, and it takes place exclusively in Epcot. It used to only be in the World Showcase, and the global markets, as they say, used to just be in the World Showcase. They've added a bunch in Future World. They've changed a lot of places around. They've added new stands. They've actually added some inside spaces to it as well. So it's really all around the park now. And basically, one of the frequent questions that I used to get was, does it cost anything extra? And it doesn't require its own separate ticket, at least to go into the park and enjoy most of these things. You don't need a separate ticket, but most of the food and drink, the food and the wine and the beer and the cider and all of that stuff, it's not included in your price ticket. You're still going to have to pay extra for this food, just like any other food. And everything is a la carte, and prices range depending on what you're looking at from maybe $3 to like $7 or $8, depending on the food or the drink that you're getting.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's good that there's options for like snacks and stuff.
Yeah. So, and the fact that it leads you into getting snacks. If you are planning on going to Epcot and taking part in Food and Wine Festival, this goes against most of my usual advice, which is make reservations, make reservations, make reservations. This is the one day that you don't do any of that, and you don't, you're not going to probably have lunch. You're probably not going to have dinner. You just go there, and if you're going to want to try as many things as possible, it's just going to be your meal, and you're just going to kind of be routinely snacking throughout the day.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, so I guess you'd show up obviously with, don't eat anything prior to heading there.
Right. I mean, you might want, breakfast before you head out because everything still opens at 11.
Okay.
So if you get hangry like me, you probably want to do breakfast first. And also that way, so at least you have something in your stomach before you start drinking, which is always a good idea, right?
Oh, hey, amen to that. That's great advice.
But the one good thing though is that it continues with Disney's super emphasis on dietary restrictions and stuff. So the best thing for you to do is pick up one of the little mini passports that they offer you. Number one, so that you can see all of the menu items. Number two, you can also see all of the dietary restrictions. So if you have any allergies, it also notates if anything is gluten free. It notates vegetarian, and it notates vegan options.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's specifically great because of the fact that if you do have those allergies, then you're not left out of all the fun, so to speak.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So you can't, and it's really good. There are other allergies that you might usually, if you have a more severe allergy, you kind of know what to stay away from. But, either way, if when in doubt, ask, if you have a very specific allergy, like if you're, allergic to certain fruits or vegetables or whatever, you always ask. Most of the ingredients are listed, but not always. And if it's a very specific, or if it's a really like random allergy, you always want to double check to make sure. But chances are, if you have a really random allergy, you probably ask.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Yeah, and I guess one of the big questions I would have is, you can utilize some of this in your dining plans?
Yes, you can. Yeah. So all of the food and some of the non-alcoholic drinks count towards your snacks when you're on the dining plan. Also, when you're on the quick service dining plan, or if you have quick service entitlements, you can swap out 3 different snacks for a quick service plan, for a quick service meal entitlement. So what that means is you can go up to any one stand, pick 3 different snack items, and just use a quick service dining plan instead of 3 snack entitlements.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, and one of the, I guess so. If you have can you also do this if you have like a sit down? I guess you wouldn't want to switch them out if you had a sit down.
You can't do a sit down meal unless you have the deluxe dining plan, because the deluxe dining plan doesn't distinguish between a quick service entitlement and a regular entitlement. It's just all entitlements.
Gotcha.
That you kind of interchange it, so that you kind of just use interchangeably. But it basically, that's kind of where it comes in.
Gotcha. And so a lot of the kind of when I hear about, Food and Wine Festival, one of the things that I obviously heard about, and I'm going to say this simply because my bachelor party was based off this idea, is the idea of drinking around the world. And it kind of stems from Food and Wine Festival, right?
I think it kind of sort of did. I think drinking around the world probably predates Food and Wine Festival, but the thing is that with Food and Wine Festival, there are so many more carts, there are so many more kiosks that they add, that number one, it gets super expensive. Like, think back on how expensive it was when we did the bachelor party drink around the world, and then times that by about 4 or 5. Because you're taking it, everything is smaller, and you're paying a little bit less, but there's so much more to do that it can get really expensive really quickly without you realizing it, which is a great segue into my next tip for Food and Wine Festival, is gift cards. They actually have special Food and Wine Festival gift cards that it actually comes in a wristband. So number one, you don't lose it and you don't have to keep taking it out and like digging into your pocket every 10 seconds for it. And also number two, you can keep track of your money better where you can just say, I'm going to put $100 on this gift card and that's it. When it's done, it's done. Because if you just keep, you just keep handing your credit card and just, swipe, 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 before you know it, you're racking up $200-300 and you don't know where the money went.
Oh, wow. That's cool though, because you could also then budget yourself there and be aware of what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's great to budget yourself. And also, hey, you have a Food and Wine Festival souvenir now.
Very cool. Yeah, that's, would you suggest, is there anything specifically that you would recommend in terms of, like, do they change the food options every single year, or is it different things? Or
usually most of the fan favorites, most of the things that people really, really like, and like the really popular items, they'll bring back year after year. Sometimes they'll bring back the same countries, but maybe swap in food items. Sometimes they bring in new countries, like, or they'll swap and change stuff around. They have a couple of rotating places that, one year it's one thing, another year it's another thing. So, every so often it changes a little bit. But one of my favorite stops is Canada, because they have the filet mignon, and they have a cheddar cheese soup that's served with a pretzel to dip in it.
Oh,
it's awesome.
That's what's up. Yeah, that sounds great.
So if you're one of those people that has the dining plan and you're looking to unload one of those quick service meal entitlements, I highly recommend Epcot, because if you just go for the filet, you can get 3 2-ounce filet mignon pieces, which equals a 6-ounce filet mignon, for a quick service meal. And there's no way that you can ever beat that.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. Yeah, and then when you go there, so do they have like a sampling station for like some of the different wine? Because it seems like if you get big cups of wine every single time, you're not going to last very long.
You don't get big cups anywhere unless you go to any of the permanent fixtures. If you go to any of the other kiosks, you're getting maybe an ounce pour, at the most. And if you get any of the beer is usually like maybe a 3 or 4 ounce pour. So you're not getting any. They did away with that a couple of years ago when they realized people are getting way too drunk at Food and Wine Festival. So year by year, they've slowly peeled it back, where they don't have, they used to have hard liquor flights that they don't do anymore. They used to give you huge, 16 or 20 ounce souvenir stein. They don't do that anymore. The only flights that they do are wine and beer flights and cider flights.
Those beer flights are where it's at for me. I always enjoy, the idea of going and trying all these different types of beers. Even if the beer is terrible, I feel like 3-4 ounces of the beer is, knock it down or throw it away. It's just 3-4 ounces of beer. But
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's one of the great things is if that's why it's also a great opportunity to try things you might not try in other places, because you're not investing as much into it. If you go to dinner at a really fancy restaurant and try something you usually don't try, you're shelling out $30 for a meal that you might not eat or like or finish. Here, $3 or $4 for something that, it's a new experience, you're not losing out too much. So, it's one of the great things about Food and Wine Festival is that you try food that you might not try anywhere else, or might not even have the opportunity to try anywhere else.
And I wanted to quickly just give a little bit of a shout out here to some of the folks who participated in our chat over at the Walt Disney World Made Easy for Everyone group, not affiliated with WDW, over on Facebook. And Tiffany Z says that she encourages sharing because it can get quite expensive. And if you share, you would also be able to try out a couple more things.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that also kind of goes into also if someone is generous enough to swap out those quick service meals, if maybe you don't want to have 3 things at one place, but hey, maybe there's 1 or 2 other people in your party that do. So you could all kind of try and spread the love around and say, maybe one person is going to buy, one thing here that we're going to share. We're going to try something else here. I'll buy the beer flight here. You buy the cider flight over there, and we'll share and that kind of thing. So it's definitely a great time if you're going with a bigger group or even just a close knit group.
Yeah, sounds great. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I had a thought. So one of the other things that at least that is complimentary or included is the Eat to the Beat concert series, which has a lot of throwback bands, if you will. It's the same thing with Flower and Garden Festival, where it's bands that maybe 20 years ago would have been like, I can't believe these guys are headlining a free concert in Disney World. But now it's like, okay, I could kind of get this, bands like Sugar Ray, Smash Mouth, Everclear. The big bands, the big ones that are towards the end are Boyz II Men and Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. They usually close out the Wine Festival.
Is that this year's? Those are the
folks this year. Yeah, this year. Yeah, there's a few other ones, but I mean, those are the big ones, at least that I consider big. So, but it's a free concert, and it's awesome. They are solid established bands. It's not like you're going to a free concert and it's a battle of the bands, or we're talking garage bands or anything. These are established, well-known bands. So at least that there's that.
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things about that is not only is it free bands, but you're also clearly Disney knows their clientele here. They're bringing out bands that I guess the immediate thought is like, oh wow, Sugar Ray, like I still love Sugar Ray. I Just Want to Fly, or Smash Mouth, and you got to go check them out. That's really cool.
Yeah, and for Flower and Garden Festival that's in the spring, they have like Plain White Tees and Simple Plan.
Oh, there you go. That's it.
So it's like, I didn't realize, like, I never thought I was going to hear Simple Plan at Disney World, but there you go.
Yeah, that's cool because you have, for if you're an annual pass holder, it's awesome because you're getting a whole slew of free concerts to go to.
Yeah, and I mean, so there's two different paths that I want to take with this. The first one, real quick, is that there are also special dining packages that you can go to any of the actual restaurants that also include a reserved seating location for these Eat to the Beat concerts. So if there's a band that you have circled on your calendar that you are a huge fan of, that you really, really want to see, and it's really special to you, and you want to make sure that you have a really good seat to see these bands, definitely recommend the dining packages, because it's a prefix menu. So usually you get an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert. So it's like you're on the dining plan, and they also do take the dining plan, most restaurants, for these packages. Usually, some of them will cost 2 entitlements, but it's still worth it depending on which restaurant you go to, because some of them are 2 entitlements anyway. But it's a really cool option, and you also get that reserved seating location for when you show up to your show later on.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, that's, the idea of being able to eat good food, too, while you go to a concert. Usually you go to a concert, you're getting, your usual standard chicken tenders, French fries, and, maybe a burger if you're lucky. Most of the time, just a couple of beers and pretzels, I guess.
I mean, I went to Warped Tour last weekend, and I dropped about $60, and it was just on, like, 2 drinks and, like, a chicken sandwich and fries. I did not go into the mosh pit afterwards, though.
Oh, thank God for that. Yeah, I think at this point, both of us are probably the mosh pit now, while it looks great to kind of, throw up your devil horns from way back, from a good distance. I'm not sure that I'd do so hot in the mosh pit these days.
But anyway, yeah. So the other kind of point that you made about annual pass holders is, number one, there is a lot of annual pass holder exclusive merchandise on top of the regular food and wine merchandise, which there is a lot of. So if you are an annual pass holder and you're not certain of some of the discounts, number one, you always ask, and number two, you always have to want to check out the the festival center, which is that big yellow gold dome that sits in between Mission Space and the area formerly known as Ellen's Energy Adventure. To check out number one, they have that's where all the demonstrations that I'm going to get to in a second are. But also that's where a lot of the annual pass holder merchandise is available.
That's really cool. I mean, it's good. It's good to see Disney keeps giving people an incentive to sign up for the annual pass. You know, I mean, certainly for somebody like yourself who lives down in Florida, it pays to do the annual to buy an annual pass. But now, even someone like myself who's now been there twice, you know, for a couple different days, you know, if you're going down to Disney 2-3 times a year, it really pays to think about a membership as well.
You don't, even if you only go down once a year, if you can plan it so that you get your one trip and then you can get your second trip the following year on the tail end of that annual pass, that pays for itself. And then you don't have to get another ticket until another year. So really, you're only buying a ticket every 2 years.
Oh, that's smart. That's there you go. And that's
I mean, that's what a lot of people do. That's what a lot of out-of-state people do. If you know that you're coming down at least once a year, there's no reason not to get an annual pass. People think, oh, I don't live in Florida. You know, I only come to Disney once a year. It doesn't pay for me to get an annual pass. When you look at it and how much you're paying for a ticket, for even just the gold pass, which is like kind of the least expensive pass that you can get if you're not a Florida resident, there's no reason not to get it because you're paying basically 1.5 what a ticket would be for an annual pass than it would be for at least that much, and you get 2 uses out of it.
That's very cool. That's awesome. Yeah, they just wanted to quickly mention one thing that someone over in our chat here earlier this morning kind of threw out there as well. Carrie S. said, you know, also kind of echoed what you said about planning ahead, but then also said, look at the passport and mark what you want to try. What is the passport?
So the passport is that little book that I talked about earlier that has all of the menu items and has like the allergies and stuff. So it looks like it looks like a kind of like a regular standard passport. Because you are in the World Showcase, so they have to still be, you know, international about it. Yes. But also it also gives you little stickers to put in stuff that you've tried. It allows you to make notes and like you can check off things that you either want to try or already tried or, you know, whatever you want to do with it. It tells you where everything is, and it kind of goes in a certain order from like a start point, and then you can kind of as you're traveling, you can go, okay, just flip to the next page and see what's on there.
Oh, that's awesome. That really is handy, and that's cool too. Like if you're down there for a couple of days, you know what you've already gone to, and you could kind of plan different days of going there.
Yeah, and especially if you can keep track of it as you're going, because at the end of the day, you're probably not going to remember some of the stuff if you've enjoyed too much.
That's very, very true. I mean, especially with all, I mean, you said there's wine, beer, and cider all available, right?
Well, yep, absolutely.
Oh, very cool. One of the other things someone had said here, let me pull that up. So as they said, plan on standing. This is Joe F. It said, let's see here, plan on standing or leaning while eating. If you're afraid of missing any food, look over the special event map. So I guess the special event map is that same map you're talking about with the passport and all that?
They do so on top of the regular map of Epcot where, you know, it has all the rides and, you know, everything, whatever. There's also an additional special events park map for Epcot that's going to give the entire layout of the park. It's going to list, it doesn't list all of the kiosks by name, but it does list all of the special events. It will tell you the schedule for the Eats the Beat concerts. It'll tell you where certain special events are, like the Party for the Senses and some of the other demonstrations and stuff.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. And lastly there, out of the end, thank you for all the folks who did chime in there on that chat with us this morning. Stephen A. has a little bit of good advice I thought was real cool, said tried to break it up into 2 different days so you could try everything. The first day they entered through the World's Showcase area and walked to the right, and the second day they entered and walked to the left, so that you're banging it out in 2 different areas there.
Yeah, because what will inevitably happen is you start going one way, and depending on your constitution and stuff, you get about halfway around, and suddenly you don't want to eat or drink anymore, and right. You're kind of like, well, I'm stuffed, and I'm kind of feeling this a little bit too much, so I'm gonna maybe not do so much on this other this second half. So that's really good tip. You start one way and then you go the other way, because sometimes what we'll do is, and usually when we go, it's there's a rule that especially your first lap around has to be all new things. So it has to be stuff that you've never tried before, because for us Florida residents that get spoiled, we have a tendency to do what we like and only do what we like. So what we try and do is your first lap around Food and Wine Festival always is you try something new.
Well, and I'd assume too, during Food and Wine Festival, it really is something where there probably is so much new stuff each and every time.
There usually is, yeah. I mean, sometimes there's, and you're not necessarily, as much as I like to try new things, there are some things that I have zero interest in. There's I haven't tried it, and I will never try it.
Yeah. What is something that you'll never try?
Escargot.
Oh, snails, right?
Yeah, I'm not. I'll eat really weird fish and sushi and that kind of thing, and I've tried a bunch, but there's just nothing about eating snails that appeals to me.
Ever since I met my wife, I've done a good job, much better job from where I used to be. Steve could say, I was a chicken tenders one night, pizza the next night, burgers, done, basically. But in meeting her, I've definitely expanded my horizons somewhat. And I'd say the only thing I'll never try again, because I did try it once, was fig. Fig was, first time I tried it, threw it in my mouth, and was like, oh my God, I tasted it for days and will never try it again.
Does that include fig Newtons?
I actually my mind is blown. I didn't realize that fig Newton is made with the same terrible fig that I ate. But this was a raw fig, and that's probably why.
Probably.
Yeah. Just realizing now that soft and chewy in the inside is made up of figs. Hence why it's called fig Newton. But yeah, that's pretty terrible. I mean, of all the things for me not to realize, that's pretty bad. So maybe I will try figs again. I stand corrected. But what would you say, in going to Food and Wine this year, and maybe we'll ask you to bring along a little video so that you can show this when you do go and upload it onto YouTube. Is there anything that like, number one, you're going to go and attack the second you get there?
That's a good question. I usually don't go into it too much with that kind of thing, because I usually like to wait until I get there to really start planning, which is weird for me going to Disney. But there have been a couple of different things that, I'm always looking to try some of the new stuff. They like the new things that are out. They're new, but they're not like super unique, I guess you could say. The past couple of years they've done, like, Patagonia was like 1 or 2 years ago, and that was, they have other South American places. So it's not like super mind blown that, because you're still, you're getting something that's kind of vaguely resembles it. It was really good. Don't get me wrong. Everything that I got from Patagonia was amazing, but it's not like, most of that stuff isn't stuff that I hadn't tried before other places. I've had crispy pork belly and I've had empanadas and stuff like that. So it wasn't like, oh my God, I have never heard of this dish before, I'm going to go try it. Like, most of it was some sort of version of something that I've tried before. But I was just going to go real quick. The only thing that I would definitely recommend, if you're trying to look for a full menu of item by item stuff, try and check some of the blogs out there, because for some reason, if I could give a tip to Disney World, try and give a little bit more of a menu that are actually at the kiosks on your website, because most of the time, if you're looking for like a list an item by item of the menus at the different kiosks for Food and Wine Festival, it's not always there. And usually you have to go to a third party, which, not that it's not reliable, but I always feel more comfortable when I'm getting the information straight from Disney, just because.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, if you do follow us over on Twitter at Disney 101 Pod, if we do see anything out there that does look super great, we've connected with a lot of great Disney bloggers, and we'll retweet that stuff and spread the word about it for you guys as well. Because that does sound, I feel like, anything like that. Now, is there a, you said, so they're adding countries to this Food and Wine Festival's adding different countries than the ones that are there. That's kind of the idea behind this?
Yeah, but it's not, you're not looking at, like, they're not inserting full pavilions into here. They're just adding more little kiosks and stands and carts and stuff. So they have, like, next to the United Kingdom, they usually have Scotland and Ireland over there. They have Patagonia, which is down, it's like Argentina, basically. Or they'll have, they have Brazil a lot, which has Brazilian cheese bread and crispy pork belly and stuff like that, which is a great place to go if you are gluten-free. Brazil is a great stand to go to because the cheese bread and basically everything on there is gluten-free. They add Belgium, which has a bunch of different waffles. They, on top of the existing countries having their own extra stand, they add a bunch of new other countries. Like, they'll add either Australia and or New Zealand, and they also add a bunch of other, they add like South Korea and, a bunch of other countries that are, usually don't get a lot of representation in the showcase.
That's really cool. I mean, especially that you're getting all these different, like, I know for a fact, Korean barbecue, having Korean barbecue options in Disney. And, Belgium, you mentioned. I know Belgian beer is about as good as you could possibly get. So the idea of doing that is, it sounds awesome. And as you're running through these things, I'm just laughing because I'm like, this sounds incredible. Like, I'd be a kid in a candy store. I'd probably burn out in about 20 minutes because I'd be trying so many things super quick, and that'd be the end of me. But it sounds great.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of one of the things that goes along with Food and Wine Festival is you have to pace yourself, not just in the drinking, but also in the food, because you could get super full, super fast. And that's also kind of why I don't go in with I know I want to try this, because if it's somewhere that's like all the way back, I'm going to pass 10 to 15 other things that I know I want to try too. So there's usually not a one, I know I want to try this, I only came for this thing.
Right.
For me, at least, it'll be and, part of it is I get spoiled too. So it's more of well, I know I want to have it, but if I don't have it today, there's always next week.
There you go. Yeah, especially, yeah, you're right. You have the whole. So was there any bands that are on that list? And now, is this list available like on WaltDisneyWorld.com or something like that?
Yeah, it is. So if you go and you type in "Eat to the Beat" on DisneyWorld.disney.go.com, you'll get the 2018 Epcot Food and Wine Festival Eat to the Beat. Now, you'll first look at the dining package, but basically when you get onto there, it will also tell you the list. And also, again, a lot of awesome Disney blogs, both the official Disney blog and also a lot of our other, I guess, peers, if you will. A lot of the other bloggers and, everyone, most of the time you'll be able to get this information in a bunch of other different places.
Wow, I'm looking on this now. This is incredible. You have some of the bands we mentioned earlier, but then you have the Baha Men, who let the dogs out. They have their own set. You have Jim Belushi and the Sacred Hearts from on October 1st to October 2nd. Who else is down there? David Cook, who I think was on American Idol. Living Color, Cult of Personality. They're doing theirs. That'd be great. That'd be the one that I'd kind of circle there. That would be fun to go and check out.
Because of CM Punk, right?
That little CM Punk reference, always bring it back to wrestling. Yeah, that's a Hanson is down there.
Hanson is one of the really big ones. I know a few people that are super into Hanson, And most of us commoners go in and like, oh, Hanson, we know them from Umbop. But there's they have a super dedicated fan base, and I have to give them props for that because the first time that I saw them, I was not expecting that.
Well, I just know that a lot of people. No worries, no worries. I know that I know of those folks who love Hanson as well. And supposedly, like, if we're being honest, the Hanson music is much better than Bop was back when these kids were like 15, 14 years old.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's so because most of the time, because these bands will do like 3 sets a day for however many days they're on. So usually, like Hanson will, if they play it at all, they might play it once in the entire time that they're there. If they play it, most of the time they don't even play it.
Well, that's really cool. Is there anyone on the list you're going to try to make sure you go down and see?
Last year I wanted to check out Postmodern Jukebox and I didn't get a chance to. I think I'm going to try and add them to the list. I actually did see Plain White Tees last year and they were actually really good.
They're another band that if you think of Hey There Delilah when you think of Plain White Tees, their music's real. I'm not saying that's a good song, but the rest of their music is very good as well.
Yeah. I've seen Sugar Ray. They were good. I've seen Everclear. I can't say any bad things about any of the bands that I've ever seen at Food and Wine Festival, even if I wasn't a super fan of theirs. Like, again, like these are all good, solid bands. Like you're not going, you're not going to get, Disney knows how to pick them. I'll just leave it at that.
I will say this about Disney too. Most of the time, I've felt that the bands that I see playing at even like on Downtown Disney, they're all good. Like nobody goes out there and is just like stinking. I've been to those random, as you said, battle of the band type bars, and you're like, you can't even walk into the place because the music's so terrible. I feel like that's never the case with Disney.
Yeah, I mean, even I would go so as even the musicians that are at Disney Springs as well. It's the same thing. Even though they're basically just street performers, you're never saying, "Oh God, this guy's terrible." Like, well, you have to leave because they're so bad. Like, usually, you never get that. It's always, I don't want to say inoffensive, but that's kind of the word that kind of is rolling around in my head.
Right. Well, I mean, you're not going to get your ASAP Rocky type, rappers who are out there, cussing up. And remember, it's still Disney. So you're going to get like acts that could appeal to mostly everyone.
Well, I mean inoffensive in like the, crowd pleaser way, not like the,
I see.
You know what I mean? Like there's no niche performers here.
Gotcha. So it's somebody that could appeal to everyone mostly.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Well, is there anything else you wanted to add as we kind of, wrap things up here about Food and Wine Festival?
There is a bunch more about Food and Wine Festival, but I'm going to kind of summarize that in kind of the extras part, because you have the main attraction of Food and Wine Festival definitely is the global marketplaces. But you also have a bunch of other different options because there's a lot of other events that go on around this time. You have a lot of seminars and cooking demonstrations. So you have cheese seminars, you have wine seminars. There are different tastings and mixologies, and there's a lot of other cooking demonstrations they'll teach you how to cook a certain dish, and it's a kind of some of them are the demonstration where you actually go in and learn how to do it yourself. Some of it is just, here, we're going to give you this sample and we're going to show you how we do it. There's a lot of celebrity chefs that do seminars. There also are a lot of celebrity chefs that do brunches as well. Like there's basically you get to eat with these celebrity chefs. There's celebrity chefs and there's also Walt Disney World chefs. So chefs that come from signature dining restaurants. Usually they'll have someone from like, the California Grill or one of the steakhouses and, one of the seafood restaurants. So like Citricoast or Narcoossee's, these really, really good Walt Disney World chefs will come and they'll give demonstrations and, seminars and that kind of thing. Some of the names that I'm going to throw out there, two of them are Art Smith and Masaharu Morimoto. Both are chefs that have restaurants at Disney Springs. There's Homecoming in Morimoto, Asia. So they're great. So they participate both in the celebrity chef seminars and in the brunch things. There's also Robert Irvine, who does I forget what the name of the show. It's one of the shows on Food Network.
Oh yeah,
But you know who I'm talking about, the British guy with the glasses.
I'm well aware who Robert Irvin is, but I'm more aware of him because, again, taking it back to wrestling, he is married to Gail Kim.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And also, wild card, at least for me, until I actually read into this, Tiffany Thiessen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my dream has always been to have brunch with Kelly Kapowski. So now you can live that out.
That is super cool. Wow. That's so. Is there a specific time that you would say people should go to the Food and Wine Festival?
I would try sooner rather than later as far as season goes, because again, the closer towards the end that you get, most of the time, the busier it gets, just because the season in general starts to get busier. But also try and go during the week, because if you are here on vacation, try and make Epcot your during the week park to go to, because on the weekend, as I think we saw in the chat, someone on the Facebook chat had also mentioned this, a lot of the locals will go during the weekends, and mostly because I never experienced that before when I worked at Disney, because we always had weekdays off. So we're locals, but we would always go during the week because that's when we were off and we had the ability to. Now that I have a regular person schedule Monday through Friday and I go to bed, 20 minutes ago, I will be one of those people out on the weekend trying to fight the crowds.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, and actually that, I do want to give that. That was also Joe F., who did say avoid the first weekend and the last weekend if you can. Yeah.
I mean, first weekend, actually it's not terrible, but I would, if you can, maybe go the second weekend or so. But yeah, definitely avoid the last weekend. I would say actually anything in November too, because the first weekend is probably going to be around, the first and or second is going to be around Wine and Dine, which is a huge race weekend. So you get a big crowd there in and of itself, let alone with the Food and Wine Festival thrown in there, let alone possibly have Jersey Week thrown in there too. So I would try and hit it up before you get to November.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah, that's some great advice there. And actually, so Robin E. in the chat also did say something funny. I did want to, this person, I don't know if it's male or female there, but they were the first person who chimed in and said, do try new foods, even if you've never heard of them or can't pronounce them correctly. And they also said, do not make any table service reservations. But obviously, as we said before, if you're going to, go see those concerts, that's the way to go if you're doing that.
Yeah, the only time that I would say make a reservation is if you're going to get one of those dining packages. Otherwise, there is no reason to. But on the flip side, if for some reason you don't want to take part in Food and Wine Festival, there's probably a bunch of dining reservations for you open.
Oh, very true. Because of the fact that the dining reservations are the places that are normally there.
Right, yeah, because, you're talking, those are some of the harder to get into restaurants, and, some of them in Epcot, like Le Cellier is the steakhouse in Canada. Sometimes it's really hard to get a good reservation there. And one or two other restaurants in Epcot, they're hard to get because they're super popular. But around this time of year, they're not so much because there's so much else going on.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, I mean, did you have anything else that you wanted to add there about food and wine?
The last thing was just it's kind of going on to the extra stuff that you can do on top of the other sorts of seminars and cooking demonstrations and wine tastings and all that other stuff. The one big one that's always a big draw is the Party for the Senses, which is several, I forget, they've changed it a couple of different times, but it's a multi-course night. And it's a huge party, so there's live music, there's dancing, there's all that stuff, but also you get multi-course meal, and everything is paired to go well with everything else, and it really is a party for the senses, because they do a great job of setting up the menu and making it so that both the tastes go and the music goes, and everything is meant to sync up, and it's a great experience.
That's awesome. That sounds a lot better than the frozen dessert party.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's for what you're getting in the food and everything, but it's, one of those things where you have to go hungry. You have to definitely want to eat and want to try new things because it is a prefix menu. And a lot of the time it's only going to be, maybe it's only going to be a couple of bites here or there, but when you get to the main courses, it's going to kind of be, well, you have to make sure that you like this food, but they have the menu and everything up there. So you definitely check it out before you commit, $100+ to this party, but it's definitely worth it.
That's awesome. Well, I will say the next time I head down to WW, it's going to be doing Food and Wine Festival because that sounds awesome. And I know you wanted to originally do my bachelor party that weekend, but I don't think scheduling it didn't work out.
No, but I mean, hey, we still had a great time.
Oh, we had an awesome time. At some point soon, we will do a bachelor party episode. Maybe we'll get some of the other fellas on here. Not too many of them. That'd be an insane time. But that is going to do it for us this week. Did you have anything that you were thinking for next week?
I have a couple of ideas rolling around, nothing too firm yet, so I think we'll have to be surprised.
Yeah, I have a couple things myself. I was thinking at some point we could do maybe like top 10 favorite attractions, must-do attractions in Disney World, and kind of compare our lists and see where we're at. Okay,
I could do that.
I think that would be cool. So maybe we'll do that next week. I will quickly give a plug. I normally don't do this, but if you are also a wrestling fan, it's a big weekend this weekend. It's SummerSlam weekend. Give a holler, and check us out at Watch Wrestle Pod. That's my side wrestling podcast deal. I do it alone, so it's a lot of me. But if you do want to check that out, check us out at Watch Wrestle Pod. We actually did a little bit of a video from the Barclays Center earlier today, kind of showcasing all the stuff they have set up for SummerSlam. So it's a big weekend. If you're into that, check that out. Anything that you wanted to add or say, Steve?
No, just have a good week.
All right. Well, thanks. And not to mention, we got along so well with both of our teams currently in a big battle. Jets and Redskins are playing on I believe it's a preseason game still, but they are playing each other right now.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we'll have to go and check that out now.
Sounds good. So again, give us a follow over at Disney 101 Pod. You can follow me at Tommy on the Spot. You can follow Steve at at Steve CJ556.
Yes, it is.
Look at that. And you're also on Instagram. What is your Instagram?
Millennial_Falcon27.
There you go. Very cool. And if you start to go to some of these things like Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, or if some of the Food and Wine Festival stuff, you have to update that there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sounds great. Well, thank you guys so much, and have a very good week and a great weekend. And Steve, I'll let you go ahead and get to bed.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Take care.